And I feel like that's what like really like hurts me when I hear people like perpetuating the shame, stigma, and like misconceptions around kink and BDSM. I'm like, because you hold that already, like you don't get that pure, unadulterated like experience when if you ever do venture into the world of trying it. Like you've already tainted the experience because you let outside opinions of what your experience could be influence that.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Pleasure Science, a podcast that makes sexual liberation your new normal by changing the way you love and feel loved. And I'm so excited for this episode because we have Javay da BAE in the house, the Millennial Sèxpert, a sex educator, a kinkster, a sexologist, and pleasure professional. Welcome, Javay.
Hello.
I'm so excited to
I'm
have
excited
you.
to be here. I'm pumped. I'm like so pumped.
And we're going to talk today. This is one of our, every season we do like a deep dive into BDSM because I mean, you know, I'm kinky and everyone's about, if they don't already know, they're about to find out how kinky you are. And
Yeah.
when I was thinking of like who to bring on for an episode on kink, I knew I wanted to talk to you because so much about kink is power and power play, but we live in an oppressive world. And so everyone listening today, we're going to talk about kink. But I feel like we're also going to get kind of philosophical. So I'm
We
here
will.
for it. Yeah.
Yes.
So we always start off the pod by asking our guests the same question. So my question to you is, what is your definition of sex?
Oh, my definition of sex. I would have to say that to me, sex is the euphoric experience of pleasure in a way that like transcends solely like one level of like experience. Like it's never just like, to me sex is not just like, oh, I'm only feeling in a physical. Like it always has additional layers to it. So it can be physical, it can be emotional, it can be like just like the humorous aspect. Like you just got such a good laugh from that sexual interaction that like it feels so good, like you just feel on cloud nine. So to me sex is more than just the body, but it is that heightened experience of pleasure that we have existing as corporeal beings on this earth. And damn, already I'm already philosophical.
I love it. Hey, it's the Pisces way. Like
It
what
is.
can we do? But no, I agree. And that's why I love asking this question because I love how every different expert really brings another layer to this. And so speaking of, your definition of sex, gorgina. And now the next thing I want to know is like, what is your story with BDSM? And also if you want to share like your story as a sexpert, because you have done such beautiful work as a sexpert, but kink has been a big part of that. So for folks who haven't met you yet, share a little bit about your story and specifically your BDSM story.
Yeah. So surprisingly, I would say that like both roads are connected. Like it was never like two separate paths. They were always like hand in hand. Because I didn't realize that I was kinky until like adulthood when I was like, oh, that's what this is. I should have known from my obsession with like all like early 2000s vampire media, like if that don't say kinky, like it was all leather. But like so from an early age I was obviously kinky, though I wasn't like consciously aware of it. But once I became an adult and like graduated undergrad and moved to LA in my early 20s, the door was bust open. It was like, oh hey, yeah girl, you on your own, do your thing. And so I was already like dipping my toes into exploring kink and BDSM. And then like I also started working at a sex shop because you can't live in LA with only one job, even
Yeah,
in the early 2020s.
it is true.
No, 2000, mid 2010s. I was like, what is that? And so working in a sex shop like developed my actual education around it, because everything that I knew when I was first getting started was solely from like porn and like, bad advice that you read on random ass websites on the internet. And so by working in a sex shop, I learned more about kink and like how to do it safely and like what is good and bad, which was like perfect timing because I was also like entering into like the kinky side of sex work, and didn't have like all of that like foreknowledge. So I was like, yeah, this seems right. Okay. So learning like adjacently from like experience, but also from learning from education, I was like, okay, I love this. I love that I get to actually like have this educational component. And then I became like the expert of my friend group because I was like, no, 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 y'all, you're doing that wrong. um, and so having that knowledge was what led me to want to go back to school to become a sex educator, like more traditionally, um, because I realized like it enhanced like my actual lived experience in that realm. Like instead of being like, oh yeah, I will trust this random stranger that I just think is hot and like they obviously know what they're saying because they're hot and they want to do this to me. Instead of like relying solely on that, which is definitely not the way to approach kink and BDSM. So don't do as I do, do as I say. Um, but it allowed me to really see like, okay, like this is like it to me, they're integral. Like the lived experience is so necessary for the like traditional education to like land, if that makes sense. So that's how we got here. Like it was like be a hoe, learn some shit. Now I'm a hoe that knows some shit.
Absolutely. I always say if you wanna learn about sex, you need to learn from a slut. That's the person who
Yes.
you need to be learning from. And so, but I didn't know this piece of your story. So, because when I met you, you were already in the process of getting both of your PhDs, and just like a total baddie on the internet, the millennial sexpert. So it's so cool to hear how like you started. One, we just started with the slutty journey, but also it sounded like you were doing some sex work. Were you doing some kinky sex work at the beginning? Like that was, tell me more about that.
Yeah, I was. So I started out because I was mainly interacting with men, like being like a like sex worker sub. Like I was like, no, my dude, I'm hot and in my early 20s. Like, do I look like I'm gonna be here for free? Um and so then like realizing like very quickly getting the whole like, oh well, you have to call me sir, you have to call me daddy, blah blah blah. And I was like, I don't want to do any of those things. Like, have you seen you? Like, calm down. um and so like in those earlier stages I was like obviously doing stuff that like was red, it would be, I now know, are red flags in like the kink and BDSM world. um but then I eventually like met a friend and she was in sex work. She was a sex worker. And so she like clued me in and she's like, no, 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 don't do that. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, cool, cool. And so then like after meeting her, I like actually moved more into like the Dom side of kink sex work, which I obviously loved because hello, power. Um, but yeah, they were happening at the same time in the sense of like learning like this is not how this is supposed to be. Any way you draw it up, like it wasn't the way. And so realizing like, oh wait, I can put down some boundaries and set some rules around this. So I did.
I love it. And it's so true, and that was relates to my story. Like when I was at the very beginning of my journey, I trained to be a dominatrix. I started subbing. Kink and BDSM was also my entryway into sex education, empowered communication, sex confidence. And it's so funny because I feel like a lot of folks did dabble in sex work in some way in our industry, and some continued with it and some became educators. And so I love that that was also a part of your journey because we need to normalize that piece. First off, we need to normalize that you learn by doing. But yeah, tell me what I see your face. What are you thinking about that?
No, no, I absolutely agree about the piece of like how so many of us in the like education side of this world also have like a history in sex work. I actually like was I wrote a paper in school, and actually was supposed to present it at ASEX, but then like life happened and that couldn't happen. But it was actually talking about like how like we as like sexuality professionals need to recognize like the hierarchy that exists and why like the immediate response to sex workers in this like education space is like flawed, and antithetical to like what we say we're about. And so I'm like so sad that I never actually got to go to ASEC to present it because I'm like, no, just because you are a sex therapist does not mean that you are a higher ranking sexuality professional. Like it doesn't make you better. Like just because I've traditionally become a sex educator, it doesn't make me better than other types of sexuality professionals that may have taken less like traditional routes, including sex workers. And also like we need to like name that sex workers are sexuality professionals. Like they do so much labor that we as like sex educators do, but even more because there's the added layer of like performing and doing sex work. um and so like I absolutely agree with that statement. I'm like, no, y'all need to shut up and welcome sex workers into this space, especially like being someone in academia. I'm like, could y'all like I need you like you should not be writing about sex workers. You ain't done sex work a day in your life. You don't understand anything about this industry. And now you out here publishing 20 million 5011 papers. Sit down. You haven't even you've never tipped a sex worker. Like stop it. Don't be putting me on your CV just for shits and gigs, okay? So yeah, I'm very passionate about that.
I agree. I am super passionate about it. I will die on this hill that we need to be protecting and honoring sex workers, and that is like one of the roots of healing society, healing ourselves, and sex work involves so much therapeutic work, which God, we'll have you on another episode to dive into that one. But no, but I love touching on that. But going back to BDSM, so what does BDSM mean to you? Because people listening, they're like, I know it's an acronym, or I know it's pain, or da da, and but what does BDSM mean to you?
To me, BDSM means freedom, exploration, curiosity, pushing the boundaries, like introspection, like devotion, like passion, like it means so much. Like it's because there are so many avenues to it. Like it's never just like a one singular straight road that everyone follows. Like to me, like kink and BDSM is essentially like our most like tangible way of like really like creating the life we want. Like, yes, we live in a society that has all these like rules in place and like you can't do blah 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 blah. Like, oh, we're gonna give you a ticket. But like kink and BDSM, like you truly get to make the rules. You get to decide how things go. And it's like actually in a way that like I think we as humans love because like we're about control. Like we live in a society where we have so little control. So like kink and BDSM gives us a space to actually be like, you know what? I'm gonna take the reins on this. And actually, I want to be in control today. I want to have the power and I want to decide what gets done. Or you know what? I don't want that today. I want to relinquish all power. I want to let go. I want to let someone else take the reins for me. And then you add in the actual like aspect of pleasure with this. Like what like honestly, I think that's what we were put here for. Like no, we weren't made to work, y'all. We was made to lay around, eat grapes, have somebody eat your booty hole, and you tie each other up every now and then with like some nice vines. Like that's what we supposed to be doing. Um,
I
and that
agree.
so to me, that's what BSM is. That's it's what life is meant to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I so agree. One of my favorite phrases is like life is meant to be experienced. Like if you want to pull everything back, that's what it's meant to be. And BDSM helps you do that. It helps create the language and the clarity and the freedom to explore. Cause I feel like one of the biggest myths is like, oh, if I'm into BDSM, then I'm into this like really eccentric and larger than life, sex experience, which is a total myth. Like, what do you think are some of the myths you see with people thinking, oh, BDSM, that sounds scary?
That it always means that there's going to be pain involved, that it means that you have to have like a dom or like someone like in a position of power over you, like it's only set up in those relationship styles, that it can't be done by yourself, which I'm like all of that is like so not true. One, you can do so much kink by yourself. I actually like do more solo kink than I do like kink with partners, because of like that just like I'm interacting with people on the regular. I like the solitude of like solo kinky time. Like I get to like just like zone out from the world and enjoy, and especially because like it's not always the pain for me. I'm like temperature play is my go-to like solo kinky activity. Like it just like one like pulls me into like my body much better than like anything else I could ever think of. And as someone that's like literally always like overwhelmed with a million and one things, like it's so nice to have something I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna ignore the world right now and I'm just gonna light a massage candle and I'm gonna give myself a nice little massage. Or I'm gonna light my wax play candles and just like, create a little body art. I'm gonna get an ice cube and just like really enjoy like feeling the coldness on my own body. But yes, like there's so many misconceptions around it. And I'm like, first of all, if we just like stopped like listening to like what big like mainstream media has said about kink and BDSM, like if you shut all that out, unlearned it, erased it, like you would actually be a blank canvas walking into an experience that you can make whatever you want. And I feel like that's what like really like hurts me when I hear people like re like perpetuating the shame, stigma, and like misconceptions around kink and BDSM. I'm like, because you hold that already, like you don't get that pure, unadulterated like experience when if you ever do venture into the world of trying it. Like you've already tainted the experience because you let outside opinions of what your experience could be influence that. And I'm like, if you just like, let it all float away, get really high, forget that you ever heard it. You would be shocked at what that experience could be for you.
Yes. And speaking more about solo BDSM, because one of the big misconceptions I hear, not just about BDSM, but sex, especially for single people, is, oh, I want to explore kink or I want more sex, but I need a partner to do that. And then all of a sudden they're blocking their own ability. And so I want to take a moment here, since you brought up that solo BDSM, for anybody who's listening, who maybe they're partnered and they want to explore kink and their partner isn't interested, or maybe they're single. How do you start exploring solo BDSM?
Um, a lot of different ways. Can I shamelessly plug my
Yes, you
first one?
can. Oh my god, please.
I actually have a solo kinks yes no maybe list on my website. That's a free download because I was talking about this during Kinktober. I was like, I want more people to one start this exploration on your own because we so many people don't realize how easily influenced by others we are. Like you having your first experience of something with someone else is going to impact how you feel about it. Like you are going if their immediate reaction was like, that was mid, you're more than likely to be like, oh well, okay, I guess it wasn't that great. Rather than like you having your own first experience by yourself and be like, holy shit, I didn't know I could have that all on my lonesome. So I personally encourage folks to actually try it on their own by themselves for the first time. But also recognizing that be like the pressure of like, I have to do this with my partner when we know that like in this current society, so many people's like libido and desire are mismatched in relationships. Like one day you're like, this is a great day for me. I'm having a great time. And your partner's like, today was a shit day. They ran out of PB&J like Uncrustables. I was devastated. Like, things happen that impact you and you're like, I'm not in the mood anymore because I was really hoping for some buffalo wings and that's not happening today. So like recognizing that like the realities of the world that we're living in and how different we are as people, even if we are super committed and in devoted relationships where we love each other and we're like, I would love to always want to have sex with you when you want to have sex. Like that's not the case. And so kink and BDSM by yourself allows you to still experience sensations that you can't have with your partner at that moment in time. And also solo kinks I think are really good because if you ever do want to play with somebody, you've learned like what your thresholds are by playing by yourself rather than going through the test of somebody else testing the threshold for you. Because again, like I feel like all roads lead back to communication. If you start out with somebody and you have never done kink on your own before, you are already limited in the way you can communicate about it. You don't know, like, oh, this is how I can, like, how I can describe the amount of pressure I like, or how much, like, actual, like, force I want you to put behind this impact. But if you are playing by yourself, you are learning, like, okay, I like this level of pressure. This amount of force feels good for me. Like, when I'm doing my workshops for kink and BDSM, I literally always go around and I ask people, I'm like, would you like to feel what I recommend is like a good starting pressure for like different types of play? And they like, I have them put out their hand and then I will like go around and like if I'm spanking I'll like give it a little hit, or if I'm using an implement I'll do it with the tool. But I'm like, I want you to understand like what we say when we say like medium pressure, like softer, like you have to have an understanding before you can actually say it to somebody else. Because if you've ever gotten a massage, we all know that everybody understands pressure differently, because you go into there and you're like, yeah, I would like medium pressure, and they're beating the shit out of you, you leave and you're like, how did I get bruised? I said
Literally
medium.
me. You just described me at every massage parlor, because I'm a super kinky person, but I am sensual. I'm not good with pain. And that's such a good metaphor, because I think a lot of people, right? Like they don't that the massage thing, it makes total sense, you know? I love that. And everyone needs to go. We'll put it in the show notes too, a link to that freebie, because those questionnaires are, like, you're right, all the roads lead back to communication. Those questionnaires are a great first step. And it's why it's so good to have you
Mhm.
on the pod, because people should find you after if they're like, Javay, teach me more. Teach me, like, you do pleasure RX sessions, right, Javay, where someone can like, yeah, like they can
Yes.
book you via the internet and you can help folks with that.
Yes, no, truly. And I'm like, I love to do them. So like do it.
Hey, I love, and so one thing again that like is so central to kink, right, is this idea of power and playing with power. And in the episode right before our episode, I'm sharing with people the secret history of Wonder Woman and how Wonder Woman was actually
Mm.
created by a kinky throuple, a married throuple, 2 women, 1 man, and when Wonder Woman first came out, it was drenched in kink and BDSM and all of this imagery. And the guy who actually made Wonder Woman was a psychologist who studied disc theory, which is the theory of dominance and submission. And his whole shtick, this guy from the 1920s, was basically like, everything in our world is around power, privilege. You either have power or you don't, and we're eroticizing it at every level. So why not make that conscious? Right. And that was his, and Michel Foucault, who's a very famous scholar, then wrote The History of Sexuality, and Sigmund Freud wrote like, or no, it was Freud wrote a different book, but then there, anyway, I'm going into my nerd spiral, but there's a lot of discourse around power and kink and BDSM. And so in a
Mhm.
world where we are playing with power, and in a world that is oppressive, that has hierarchies that are not okay, how do we navigate BDSM where we're playing with power and sometimes we're even recreating the oppression, but it feels good or it feels empowering or it is reclaiming, right? So, how do we consciously play with this power in a world that's oppressive?
Well, one, the first thing to do is actually recognize power. I feel like so many people still sit in this place of being like, well, no, like there's no power dynamic here because like they're not like my boss or they're not, so and so. Like they don't have like that thing. And I'm like, at the end of the day, there's always power. And until you can recognize that, you can't actually play with it. Like you can't play with something you can't see. That's why imaginary friends only stick around for so long because you stop seeing them. So when you start to understand what power is, you can then make more conscious decisions around how you want to engage with it and how you want to use it to your benefit in these situations, be it by yourself or with a partner. Because you being able to say, you know what, actually, I do want to like let you have a little bit of control today. And I want you to tell me what to do. I want you to lead me through my day today. I want to feel that release of pressure from society because society is telling us that we supposed to know what we're doing every day, how we doing it. And we're supposed to, you have to have a plan. Get your planner out. Have your Google Calendar. I say as someone that loves her planner and her Google Calendar. But like our society is telling us that we are supposed to do. And when you get to choose with kink and BDSM how you want to do things, you are taking back that power that we regularly don't have. Like how many of us truly get to stroll up to work that aren't entrepreneurs with our own businesses, like stroll up to work when we feel like it, do it how we want to do it. Like that doesn't exist. But you can decide, especially with a partner in scene creation, like how do we want to play with power today? Do we want to actually use like some degradation and humiliation to like really like step out of like the confines of like what this language means because our society has made it mean these things? Or do we want to just like, let's enjoy actually like going back and forth. Like let's both switch today and like let's exchange power together in live time in a way that feels good for us. Like when you understand all the different ways that power shows up and how it also becomes erotic, like you can do so much of kink and BDSM that society literally is telling you you will never have the chance to do. You will never have the chance to wake up one day and decide, you know what? I'm wearing my entire puppy outfit the all day long because I want to. I'm cleaning the house as the good little pup I am. Woof woof. Give me a cookie because I cleaned the toilet, bitch, and I didn't even drink out of it. So like you can't. Society is not gonna let you do that. If you show up somewhere dressed in full pup wear, there's not a kink or BDSM event, you're probably gonna get the police called on you because of the society we live in. They're gonna be like, oh my God, pedophile. And it's like, bitch, the pedophile is who you called. What are you talking about? So you have to actually like recognize that like you have so much control of your power when you are using it in kink and BDSM in a way that you are probably very ignorant and like obtuse to in real life. Like it's your first awakening. Like this is how you actually wake up in the Matrix. You start doing kink and BDSM, and then you're like, "Yo, this is all fake," and it is.
Absolutely. Oh my God. So well said on every level. And I'm sure there's someone listening who's now wondering, okay, well, I get it and I can be empowered, but then what do I say to the people who kink shame? The people who might turn around and say, oh, a woman being submissive to a man, automatically sexist. Like this is, and to the people who may be looking from the outside in and it looks some sort of way, but the people inside of it are so happy, fulfilled, empowered, and like you said, it's actually quite the opposite when you're experiencing kink. But what would you say to those people who are like, I don't want to be kink shamed, or like navigating that?
So there's three things that I recommend when it comes to like you interacting with somebody that is known to kink shame. And literally, someone asked me this question yesterday. I was doing a guest lecture on just like sexuality in general, and they were like, "What do you do when people like have like a negative response to you like bringing up sex things?" And the first thing is like start with like you got to break the tension of it, like. People feel uncomfortable for like underlying reasons. So you have to like kind of break that away. You start making jokes. Like, I want you to start cracking jokes and like, granted, that's not for everybody. I was a stand-up comedian for 2 years, so like cracking jokes is literally like second nature. I don't know how to not do it, and that's very bad in some situations. But you got to start off like, I want you to like diffuse the situation with them and be like, so they're like, oh, so you like to lick people's toes, bruh? Tastes a lot better than their kneecaps. Like, what would you rather lick? Like, come on. Like, breaking that tension to like let them be like, oh, that's a good point. I wouldn't want to lick the back of somebody's kneecap. Though some people are probably into that. I just don't want you licking mine. Like, I went to the gym today. Them crevices get nasty. Um, but like, so you start off by diffusing it with some type of like laughter comedy, and then start to actually probe the question. Like, most people don't recognize it. Like, the reason you think this is not because it's what you want to think, it's because you were taught to think this. So like probe, like, okay, so why do you think that kink and BDSM is like bad? Like, actually ask the question, and you're gonna have to ask them a lot of follow-up questions, especially if their response is like, oh, because like if you're submissive to a man, then you're like not a feminist. Like, with that one, keep probing and be like, give me the definition of feminism, because you literally are not being a feminist by telling me what I should or should not do as a woman. Like, babes, come on. Like, first of all, learn. Like, we need people to read. Like, pick up a book, y'all. Like, that would really help. And then the last way that I usually do it is like just point out like, why are you worried about what's happening in my bedroom, in my relationship? What's going on in yours that you are so involved in mine? Like, you are projecting right now, babes. You mad because I'm having fun, whatever the fuck I'm doing behind my closed doors. And you're not. And maybe you need to talk to your partner about that, but not about me and not about what I'm doing. Because me and my partner, we're talking about it, literally talking about it. And usually it's like so many of the people that are kink shaming are the ones that literally are not communicating their relationship. Like, they are literally like, I'm just like not fulfilled in whatever way I want to be fulfilled. And it's like, why are you telling me? Like, you should tell them. I can't change it unless you're gonna let me go talk to them on my own. And most people won't let you do that. So you need to say it to them and let them know, like, hey, this, I'm not feeling it. Also, why are y'all so mad at novelty? Like, why do y'all want to spend the next 45 to 70 years in missionary doing the same fucking shit? Like, that's, I'm sorry. Maybe it's just because I'm neurodivergent, but like, no, off with her head. Like, you better not fucking try and give me the most monotonous sex life ever. That is, I don't, why would you, what? That's like you actively being like, ooh, cornflakes are so delicious. No, they're not. They were made to make you not be horny. They are the opposite of delicious. They're vile. Like, it's evil. Like, it's, cornflakes are to like the same, they're the same to me as like Reagan getting rid of porn theaters. They're equal. Fuck them things. Fuck Reagan also. Fuck that fucker. Yeah.
I also agree that a lot of people, like, so such a side note, a lot of people hold up Ronald Reagan and this man. Oh, the awful things that this man did is astounding, and another episode to like to dive deep into. But yes, you know, and thinking of novelty, your brain needs that, period. Like, your brain needs novelty, whatever your libido, whatever your sexuality, and whatever your relationship style. You need novelty, and we need to have differentiation in our romance and our sex life. And so, yeah, we shouldn't be kink shaming, because that's one of the most dynamic ways that we can do that. And kink is so diverse and can be so entry level. And you know, this whole thing reminds me of something I actually experienced at the Folsom Street Fair. For anyone who doesn't know, it's a huge BDSM festival, very very sexy, up in San Francisco. And the first year that I went, I witnessed a scene, a BDSM scene of someone pretending to be a German Nazi from the war, and they had like a Jewish, like someone pretending to be Jewish. It was like a whole Holocaust scene. And I am someone who's Jewish and my family survived the Holocaust. And so I'm walking through Folsom Street Fair and then I turn around and I see something and I'm like, oh my God, that even me, so like someone who is so open-minded and open-hearted, it hurt for a second to just like witness it from the outside. But then I was also like, hey, I'm not going to yuck their yum. They have talked about it. We're at a kink fair. Like they have every right to do this. But it really got my wheels turning on how like kink, it can be super entry level, soft and like very not super crazy the way people can think, but then you can also really explore some darkness and you can really go deep and really go into the shadows of your eroticism and the shadows of society, right? And the really oppressive power. And so, when I saw this from the outside looking in, my first thought is, you know what, this was, I'm believing that this was fully consensual, and and I'm like, good for them. Like I'm not gonna yuck their yum. But as someone, for you, like if you've ever seen scenes like that, what do you think about, like, is it not oppression as long as it's fully consensual? And like, again, like this complexity, like how do we navigate that as people who love kink and support kink and find the value in kink?
Yeah. So for me, like, uh see, my face probably gave a lot of reactions. So my immediate thought is like, one, in that situation, like in the realm of like like doing some dark like BDSM play and like things like race play. Like for me, I'm like like obviously everyone gets to choose what they want to do. I personally would have had a problem because of like the public setting of the nature. It's like passerbys cannot consent to that, and that is like a highly like that's very charged. So like if that to me that's something like if you want to do that, you are absolutely welcome to do that. But putting it in a setting where people, especially given our actual political climate, like that's a very alarming thing to just put out there without any forewarning or allowing people to consent to like actually like being a part of that. Because like when it comes to public like kink and BDSM activities, like everyone then is a part of this and you aren't getting their full consent to be in this type of setting. So from something like that, I'm like, that's not, to me that's not a public setting one, because you don't know how that's going to react to the like for the people that are actually in this space. Like, and you also then don't provide them any aftercare doing something like that. You do this whole thing and they just got to keep it moving. They don't get to like stay and then have you actually like do your responsibility of like making sure that someone's cared for after that type of experience. So like for a public thing, that's my personal opinion. I personally don't engage in race play for a multitude of reasons. Like once you get to a certain point of like actually being in higher education and you learn it, you like this I can't even like we can't even go down that path. There's no joking about it when I actually like I feel like so many people that engage in race play, especially if they are not themselves like a black person or another like brown or like another a non-white person, like there's a lack of social consciousness that I think exists that makes it so that way people like don't get the full magnitude. Because I'm like, if you really understood what all was happening during the transatlantic slave trade, you wouldn't want to like lean on some of those tropes and actually say them to me when we live in a current society that still has forms of slavery, that still like regularly mutilates and destroys the human body of like black folk. Like there's just some things that if you don't fully understand something, I don't think you should do it. And to me, race play is one of those things that I think that some people like enter into a little too preemptively, because I'm like, there's some pre-work you need to have done before you do it. And I also like, especially being a black person, I feel like I'm very hesitant of like white folks that are like, I love race play, because I'm like, that's the first thing you said to me. Just say that you want to say the N word to people and like get out my face, because what you mean? Like what? Like why do you want to enjoy race play, babes? Your race is already enjoying it, okay? Like what you mean? You woke up white? Yeah, stop it. But that's just my personal thing. I don't want to yuck someone's yum. I just want people to be like, I need you to think a little bit more critically before you enter into something that is so charged, which is also like a thing that like we know ain't happening. Critical thinking skills are on the decline in the United States of America. So for me, it's not that I'm like, ew, don't do that. It's like you shouldn't do it if you don't have an understanding of the thing you're trying to do. And I feel that way about everything. Like you don't just dump off the deep end unless you like got enough swimming skills to handle it. And most people don't. Most people are like, I could just figure it out. And like, there are certain things in life that you shouldn't figure out. Tying your shoes, yeah, you could just figure it out. Learning how to change a tire, you can just figure it out. Learning how to play with another human being and care for them, um, in a multitude of situations, that's not something you just figure out. You learn ahead of time because it's about care. You have to take care of the people you're playing with. So I think that like more heavy things can be used in kink and BDSM, but not by the naive or the ignorant. Like you need to do your due diligence. Also because like if you're not, you're just like reinforcing white supremacy within kink and BDSM,
Yeah.
and that's not what it's here for. Like get the fuck out.
Yeah. Oh, totally. And something that I'm hearing that I hope everybody listening is hearing is like, if you do have a desire for any of these kinks, then it is your responsibility to educate yourself. And you do not have like I fully agree with you where I personally would take a big issue with like, for example, what I experienced at the Folsom Fair. Like obviously it was in public, I was passing through, and you're right, there is no ability for care in a public setting. That's something really important to think about. And I have no idea of knowing like the context of these folks or like, but it would be my hope that like they're educating themselves and they're thinking about it. And it's interesting when we think of the psychology of arousal, if you don't admire someone, you will stop feeling arousal for them and desire for them. And I love what you say about like, hey, if you are into really dark oppressive things and you might be ignorant about it, it might actually show that you're ignorant about it, because the second you start doing more research, you will probably lose admiration for the entire fantasy in general. And then your libido will
Mm-hmm.
transform and it will change and it will evolve. Because that's the other thing that I want people listening to understand is when you educate yourself and your libido evolves and changes, people will like, especially I hear this a lot with men where they're like, I don't want you to take this away from me. I don't want to take away this fun experience or this sexual thing. And it's like, no, nothing is being taken away. You're evolving. You started here.
Mm-hmm.
And I, in my own way, in a much less charged situation, experienced it where at the beginning of my kink journey, I loved a good daddy and I loved saying the word daddy. And now in my kink journey, that does nothing for me. I've explored it, I've fantasized about it, I've educated myself on all of these things, and it's like a mixture of having tried it and scratched the itch, and also just continuing to learn about all of the ways that oppression operates. And now I'm like, I love being called mommy, I could be called daddy, but I don't like, it's like you evolve through the exploration, and that's a beautiful part of
Yes.
it. Which brings me to my next question. I personally think BDSM is incredible personal development. And so I'd love for you, like, how do you find BDSM to be personal development?
Oh my God, I love this question. So one, obviously, in that like you're pushing yourself, whether you're doing it in the physical sense or the emotional sense or the mental sense, like it is like pushing you. And as someone that is like always like I would say I'm competitive. Yes. Like I did sports growing up. Like I was always after the best role in the school play and musical. Like I'm competitive. Um, uh, it's so great because the only person I'm in competition with is myself. Like it doesn't have the toxicity of like, oh, now I'm competing with like other women and like I'm competing with every other ninth grader in the county. Like, no, I'm only competing with me to see what my body can do, to see what I can do, to see what my limits are. And so that aspect of personal development I absolutely love. The personal development of communication skills, because Lord knows we are not taught communication skills, especially if you have grown up in the United States of America. They don't want you to communicate. They literally and they intentionally did not teach communication skills because they knew that that would be a tool that we would use to actually like fight back against oppression, and that's why they don't teach it. And so the personal development of your communication skills growing like so incredibly through kink and BDSM is like one of my favorite things. Like, I love it so much because, like, and it's not in the traditional way that we think that we have to communicate. It allows you to diversify your ways of communicating, which I think is also like so important because it like moves us again away from like white supremacy and this idea that like knowledge only happens in one way and like all this stuff. Like, no, you learn to communicate with people through like a physical touch. Like, if you're gagged, you can't really say nothing. So, like, how am I communicating my needs to you through physical touch? How am I communicating my needs to you, like, through my words? How am I communicating the emotional or mental needs that I have when like I very like most of us don't have the language. Like, most of us literally like would like be like, I've never heard that word before if we had to look at the like emotion wheel that like therapists use. Like, so many people like don't know words for emotions. They're like, I'm mad, I'm angry, I'm sad. It's like, yeah, that's like the big one, but I need you to hone in on the little emotions. So like the way that you develop in that sense to be able to communicate that to others, like the benefits even outside of kink and BDSM, like I have loved it because like me and my husband, we use safe words like to like describe like non kinky things. Like, we use them in non kinky situations. Like, I'm generally like a very anxious attachment style. I think that if you're being quiet for longer than like 2 minutes, like you're mad at me, I've done something wrong. Like, we know it's childhood trauma. We got to work on it. Don't talk about it, y'all. But I love it because like we have now started using safe words to like address like that feeling so I can know like, oh, you're not actually upset right now. I'm just like, I'm projecting, like, this is me, I need to take care of me, obviously I need something in this moment, I'm paying attention to that. And also like as someone that's as a Pisces, like as like literally the most mutable water sign, okay, like baby, we are always in moving and grooving, feeling it all. Like, I can pick up on a shift change in vibes and emotions like pretty very quickly. So being able to use safe words to recognize like, oh no, this is not like a external anybody did anything, like this is an internal moment for me. Like, safe words allow you to be able to communicate that so much easier than trying to figure out like, okay, but like what is actually bothering me? Okay, it's not anything that you've done. Like, that's so much harder than to know like, actually I'm not mad at you, I'm just feeling some way, but like I'm good. Like, the simplified way of communicating is one of the most beautiful aspects of like the personal growth and development that I think comes out of kink and BDSM. And then just like the openness, I think, which especially if you are someone that might have more closed minded political views, I think kink and BDSM is like a easy entry point to being open minded that then can let you be more open minded in other areas of life, like maybe your politic, and you might be like, yo, actually wait, I don't think that it's like a radical idea that everyone should be able to eat like that. Oh, it's not that's not radical. That's the standard. Um like, it's a segue drug. It's a segue drug. Gateway drug. It's a gateway drug. Kink and BDSM is a gateway drug to being open-minded. So, do drugs, kids.
I love it, and I
Just kidding. If
agree.
you no,
Yes.
don't do drugs, kids.
What did you say? Sorry?
I was like, no, don't do drugs, kids. Just to clarify,
Yeah.
do not do drugs. I'm not telling nobody to do drugs because this is a law abiding podcast. Okay.
Only the BDSM drug. But no, it's such a gateway to open-mindedness, open-heartedness, better communication, and better intimacy. It's absolutely personal development. And in that vein, for anybody who is listening who is new to kink, curious about kink, maybe even intimidated, what would be some tips that you would have for those people as they try to explore BDSM?
First one obviously being to educate yourself. Like, before you try and jump out in these streets and do anything, read a book. Start by reading a book. And I mean I truly do mean a book.
What
Don't
is a
go in and
book?
be like, I'm
Do
gonna
you
go
have
watch
a
a
book rec that you can think of?
oh, there's so many, and like off the top of my head, I'm like, I can see the covers. I could not tell you the titles. But I do have a link. I have like a book list that I have
Ooh, okay, give us
compiled.
another amazing Javay resource. Please give us that link. But yes,
Yes.
so reading books, what other
Um
tips?
Yes. So reading books, going to workshops, like go and learn with other people because you feel intimidated because you think that like most people are intimidated because they feel like they don't meet like the vibes of what a kinkster looks like or should be like. Like, most people think that kinky people are like, all dressed in leather and like super fit and toned and like, very like mainstream media perceptions of like, oh, this is like hot people do this. And like, hello, everybody's hot. Have you looked at yourself in the mirror today? So like first start with like going to workshops so you actually see that like, oh, so many like regular people do kink and BDSM. Like it's not like one set subset of people or people that look a specific way. And then also you're learning from someone that actually knows what they're talking about, or like hopefully do your research on like the place you go into the workshop. Don't just like go any old where because they're like, we teach kink and BDSM. Like I don't know about that. But like if you go to workshops, then you also have a space to ask the questions. And like I know as someone that is like a professor, like so many people are afraid of asking questions because of the whole like don't ask, I don't want to ask a stupid question. I promise you that when it comes to asking questions about kink and BDSM, it's not stupid. It could potentially be life saving, or it could just save you a world of trouble. So like ask the question. Ask the freaking question. Do not just be like, I'll just figure it out. No, there's no need for anyone to just figure it out on their own unless you developed a completely brand new kink, which like that would be very difficult to do in 2025. I promise y'all. Like, there's no reason to not ask the question. Please just ask it. And then the next step would be to actually like get started with solo kink. Like, start by yourself before you jump in it with a partner. I promise you, it'll be a world of benefits. But like, do it by yourself after you've read a book, you've taken a workshop, and now you're ready to explore on your own. Those would be the steps I would say for someone. And if you are feeling intimidated, one, know that like the percentage of adults in like the world that participate in kink and BDSM, I want to say is what, 60 to 80%.
Mhm.
The last time I looked, there was a, I don't even know, I don't know how recent that is, but it is high. Like there are kinksters all over the world. And like, yes, a lot of them are in like Berlin, but also in America. So don't be intimidated. Like, and also more people are kinky than they know. A lot of the stuff that you're probably already doing is kinky. So just know that your grandma is also probably kinky. So it's okay for you to be kinky. Grandma was getting spanked in that bedroom. How you think she came out with 12 kids? They was doing some shit. Kinky shit.
That's so true. And that's such a good point with feeling intimidated because you are right. The percentage of people who, in some way, shape, or form, are doing kink in the bedroom is huge. And a lot of people don't even like, oh, I use a blindfold, I use a handcuff. We do massage, delayed gratification. This is all kink. This is all elements of
Mm-hmm.
kink. And so my next question would be, we have some tips for the newbies. What about tips for the BDSM veterans? What are the things we sometimes forget or we can do better as people who are in the kink community?
Um, well, one, I think we like forget that like you can continue learning and you should continue learning. And like obviously like yes, you'll learn like new techniques for like the activities you engage in. But I mean like you should also be learning in the sense of like what are some new ways that I could try communicating with my partner around these topics? Like communication evolves. It's okay to read some communication books every now and then, y'all. Also like recognizing like yes, you are a vet, but also trend like things shift and change like in like a trend way. We just like know that like we as a people like we have trends that we can see and that includes in kink and BDSM. So like maybe like pay attention, like learn, like be like, oh, lately like a lot of people have been trying like adding this thing to this thing. So like maybe I should give that a whirl, see how that is. Like it's a very common thing right now. Because like there's a lot of commonality in kinks. Like impact play is like so freaking popular. Like there are things that just like hold true for being like very commonly shared. So take advantage of that. Like, don't think that, well, I know what I've been doing for the past 10 years. Like, I know what I like. Yeah. And also, our taste buds change every 7 years. Why would your kinky sexual interests not also change? They do. So like stop being beholden to like, well, this is what I've known all along. Okay, old timer, try something new. Like, it's okay. You are not gonna like burst into flames if you discover that you have a new kink. It's okay.
And I love that. I didn't even know that your taste buds change every 7 years, and food and sex activate similar parts of our brain. So that just blew my mind because absolutely, of course, sex is going to evolve and change, even if you're not doing anything, because of the way our bodies work. That is, I love having you on because everything that you're talking about, I feel like you've brought such beautiful nuance to every level of this conversation. And so, as we close out, we always close with a couple of rapid fire questions if you are ready. And so,
Yes.
the first question is, what is the best sex advice you have ever received?
Oh, the best sex advice I've ever received. Okay. That would probably be from like my childhood best friend's mom. We were like probably like middle school age, like, and obviously learning about sex. And she was like, don't stick around if you're not enjoying yourself. Like, you don't have to stick around for stuff that isn't good or that you don't have fun with.
That damn,
I'm like,
that it's so truly, oh my God, mic drop. And then next question, what is the worst sex advice you've ever received?
you don't need to use lube. You're young.
Yes. Oh my God. Oh my God. Totally. Lube is we love lube. And then final rapid fire question. What do you hope will change about the way our society views sex in the years to come?
Oh, everything. What do I hope will change? Oh, damn, that's like so hard because truly my answer is like everything. Um, what I hope will change is that we our society will change like this fear around talking about it, like on every level. I don't mean just like at like the educational level. I mean like on the like personal friend to friend level. Like, you won't feel embarrassed to actually be at brunch having a good little kiki about like, oh my gosh, I hooked up with this person from Hinge and like I wasn't expecting nothing much. It was amazing. Like, that type of like comfort with talking about it, the comfort of talking to children and young adults in our lives, and like not letting the same bullshit perpetuate every fucking generation. Like, we could eradicate so much if y'all weren't afraid to talk about shit. Like, if more parents were talking to their children and being like, hey, you don't have to do things you don't want to do. Like, that peer pressure applies to sexual activity. You don't have to like be in a relationship because everybody else is in a relationship. You don't have a right to other people's bodies. Like, if we were having the real conversations, just imagine how different things would look. um because it's generational. Like, it's being passed down through families. When y'all like, we have parents like, content warning for anyone listening. I'm about to mention some rape, but like, there was a recent post that I saw about a young high school man or boy, like young man in high school, who raped three girls at his high school, and the police came to his house to arrest him, and his mother was like, don't do this, you're gonna hurt him. As a mother, like, you had a responsibility to do so much more in terms of raising your son, that would never have been a thought, that he was like, I can do this, I have the right to these girls' bodies. And this is why parents need to talk to their children. You are like the first place where they learn their morals, they learn their values. If you are not including sex in those conversations, you are opening up, you are literally making space for them to co opt shitty ass fucking values and morals around sex and around women and folks beyond the gender binary. If you aren't doing your due diligence of actually having these conversations, because literally, I recently saw a post that was talking about how like someone did an experiment, and like within 6 videos of just like automatically letting YouTube videos play, they ended up on Andrew Tate. We are living in shitty ass fucking times. And if you as parents can't have a conversation about these topics, your kids are gonna go to the internet, which is a hellscape place that anybody named mama with $20 can buy a damn domain and put whatever they want on the fucking internet. So do your part and actually have a conversation. Actually say, like, oh, you need to understand why you need to respect women, because you are not entitled to anybody just because you were born with a fucking penis. Okay? Okay. So yeah, parents, start talking about sex. Everybody talk about sex, but especially parents. Like, this is gonna start at home, and having some real conversations where we don't let the same shit be passed down. Because these values are garbage.
Absolutely. And, in that vein, another reason why parents should really like educate themselves and have this uncomfortable conversation, you should also be having it with your young children. We need to be telling
Mm-hmm.
young children, this is what sex is, and no one should be touching you there. Because the amount of
Yeah.
children who get violated, it is a direct reflection of the fact that we don't talk about this issue. And so then things happen to young kids and they have no language or understanding for what happened. And then they're not even going to
Yep.
tell their parents about it because they have no language. And so it's something as
Mm-hmm.
simple as like, hey, let me go to this young person and say, hey, no one should be touching you there. And then when they're a little bit older, you have conversations again. But I completely agree. I would love to see that change with sex and sexuality. And I mean, Javay, every time you speak, it's just like mic drop, mic drop, mic drop. And I know everybody listening is just going to want more of you. So where can people find you? Where can they connect with you? Tell us all your things.
So you can find me online at themillennialsexpert.com. Millennial spelled with two L's and two N's. I'm also on Instagram at Millennial Sexpert. I'm on TikTok at Call Me Dr. Effin. What else is there? I'm like, there's all the social media Facebook at debate Javay. And obviously my YouTube channel. Definitely subscribe to the Effin Network on YouTube. Yeah, I think that's everywhere. I'm pretty much on every social media platform. Hell, I'm on Pinterest. So like if you just search up Javay da BAE or Millennial Sexpert on pretty much anything except for Threads, you will find me.
And we'll have all of those links in the show notes. And also just a special plug, Javay is working on a very cool cartoon called Welcome to Kinkyville that is amazing. And Hollywood needs to greenlight it. So everyone also check that out and watch the trailer because it is amazing. So thank you for being here, Javay.
Thank you for having me.
That is it for this week's episode of Pleasure Science. We're going to be taking a short break over the holidays, but we will be back in the new year with the second half of this season. And first up, we're going to be talking about the big 5 sex struggles I see in every sex coaching session. So I know you are going to want to tune back in for that one because I'm going to share with you exactly how to fix your biggest problems. And so I can't wait to see you in the new year for that episode. But in the meantime, please come and say hi at Pleasure Science on Instagram and TikTok. I love hearing from you. So please leave a comment and say hello. And speaking of comments, if you are watching me and Javay have the coolest conversation ever on YouTube, then please leave a comment as well and let me know what you learned. Because I know that Javay dropped some cool wisdom that you learned in this episode, and I want to hear what it is. I read every comment on YouTube. So please say hi. And if this episode made your heart or your hips move, subscribe, leave a review so we can keep giving you everything that you love. And remember, listeners of this podcast get a special gift, and today's gift is extra spicy. So I am going to show you how to bring your kinky fantasies to life in ways that make you feel confident and celebrated in your desires. And I'm going to do that with the BDSM Fantasy Lab, a guided video journey that teaches you the essential BDSM etiquette and how to find your people in the kink community. I'll teach you how to negotiate, how to create kinky compatibility, and how to bring your spicy fantasies to life. So listeners of this podcast get 10% off the BDSM Fantasy Lab by using the code PleasureSciencePod. So click on the link in our show notes or head to pleasurescience.com to start streaming the BDSM Fantasy Lab now. And thank you for joining us this week. Before I go, I want you to think of one thing you have been craving to do, a big or small pleasure, and I dare you to go out and do that in the next 24 hours. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye. This podcast is a Pleasure Science production, hosted by me, Nadège, your resident sex scholar. The Pleasure Science podcast is produced by Laura Moore and edited by Camille Furman-Callot. Our music is by Octasound and is licensed under the Pixabay Content License. To find out more about Pleasure Science and to sign up for our online courses, please visit www.pleasurescience.com.